Here is a list of 100 hot debate topics for 2024, spanning politics, social issues, technology, the environment, and more. Politics and government. Should there be stricter term limits for members of Congress? Is the Electoral College still relevant in modern elections? Should the Supreme Court have a mandatory retirement age? Should campaign finance laws be overhauled to limit corporate influence? Is the two-party system failing democracy in the U.S.? Should Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. become states? Should voting be mandatory for all eligible citizens? Are executive orders being overused by U.S. presidents? Should reparations be provided for descendants of enslaved people? Should politicians be required to disclose their full tax returns? Social issues. Should critical race theory be included in school curriculums? Should schools ban books with controversial topics or themes? Are safe injection sites a humane solution to the opioid crisis? Should there be universal free childcare in the United States? Is affirmative action still necessary in education and employment? Should the legal drinking age be lowered to 18? Should universal basic income be implemented to reduce poverty? Are trigger warnings necessary in educational settings? Should sex work be fully legalized and regulated? Is cancel culture a legitimate way to hold people accountable? Economy. Should there be a national $20 minimum wage? Are unions becoming obsolete in the modern workforce? Should student loan debt be fully forgiven? Should gig workers be classified as employees? Should the U.S. implement a wealth tax on billionaires? Is cryptocurrency a sustainable financial system? Should tipping culture in the U.S. be abolished? Are government bailouts for corporations ethical? Should the Federal Reserve prioritize fighting inflation over unemployment? Is privatization of public utilities a threat to affordability? Technology. Should artificial intelligence be regulated by the government? Are social media platforms responsible for the spread of misinformation? Should internet access be considered a basic human right? Are self-driving cars safe enough to be fully legalized? Should governments ban the use of facial recognition technology? Is the development of quantum computing a security threat? Should influencers be held to stricter advertising standards? Is the metaverse a dystopian concept or an innovative opportunity? Should children under 13 be banned from using social media? Are NFTs a legitimate form of digital ownership or a speculative bubble? Environment. Should there be a global carbon tax to combat climate change? Should fracking be banned entirely in the United States? Are electric vehicles truly eco-friendly compared to traditional cars? Should governments mandate a transition to renewable energy by 2035? Is geoengineering an ethical way to combat climate change? Should nuclear power be expanded as a clean energy source? Are single-use plastic bans effective in reducing waste? Should zoos be abolished in favor of wildlife sanctuaries? Is overpopulation the root cause of environmental destruction? Should fast fashion companies be penalized for their environmental impact? Health. Should healthcare be universal and free in the United States? Should the U.S. legalize assisted suicide nationwide? Should pharmaceutical companies be allowed to patent life-saving drugs? Is mandatory vaccination for all citizens justified? Should junk food advertisements be banned for children? Is telemedicine as effective as in-person doctor visits? Should mental health days be mandatory in schools and workplaces? Are anti-vaping laws doing enough to protect teens? Should the government regulate the prices of prescription drugs? Is the U.S. doing enough to combat obesity? Education. Should college tuition be free for all students? Is homeschooling better than public education? Should coding and technology literacy be required in schools? Are standardized tests a fair measure of student ability? Should teachers be allowed to carry firearms in schools? Is charter school funding harming public schools? Should schools extend the academic year to improve learning outcomes? Should student athletes be paid for their participation in college sports? Should cursive writing still be taught in schools? Is sex education in schools too graphic or too limited? Civil rights. Should transgender athletes compete in sports aligned with their gender identity? Should hate speech be protected under the free speech laws? Is religious freedom being threatened in the U.S.? Should the United States abolish the death penalty? Are facial recognition bans necessary to protect individual privacy? Is stand your ground legislation ethical and effective? Should reparations be offered to Native American tribes? Are LGBTQ plus rights at risk of regression in the U.S.? Should gun ownership require stricter psychological evaluations? Is affirmative action discriminatory toward other racial groups? International relations. Should the U.S. withdraw from NATO? Is the United States effective in maintaining global peace? Should trade with China be limited due to human rights violations? Are sanctions on Russia harming civilians more than the government? Should the USA provide more military aid to Taiwan? Is foreign aid a moral obligation or an economic burden? Should there be global regulations on artificial intelligence development? Is the USA overreaching in its international military interventions? Should nuclear weapons be completely abolished worldwide? Is the rise of BRICS challenging U.S. dominance in global politics? Cultural and ethical issues. Should celebrities be held to higher moral standards than the general public? Is cultural appropriation a valid critique of artistic expression? Should religious symbols be banned in government institutions? Are reality TV shows harmful to participants and viewers? Should controversial historical monuments be preserved or removed? Is the rise of quiet quitting reshaping workplace ethics? Should sports teams with offensive names be required to change them? Are dating apps negatively impacting modern relationships? Is the commercialization of holidays damaging their cultural significance? Should content creators and platforms like YouTube and TikTok unionize?